matter who you are, where you are, what your choices have been, and what karmic timelines and contracts you have journeyed, the light is calling for the reunification of all aspects of life in this realm now. It is calling for the cleansing of all polarities. It is calling for the rising of all sacred heart centers now. All are being summoned home to the greater light now.
Hi, and welcome to Whole Soul Mastery. I'm back again with Renee Taintor, and we're going to be talking about some Q's and A's about the latest transmission from the Arcturian Collective, talking about the energies in January 2021 and beyond. So first, I want to welcome you, Renee. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And we are recording this today on New Year's Eve on December 31st, 2020. That's just how the stars aligned for us to connect for this podcast today and to bring these living words, these living energies in this transmission to life as we talk about some of the major parcels of energy. You know, the most impactful energies that you felt, Renee, and questions you might have or topics for discussion. So it really is beautiful when we come together like this and we allow the energies to seed deeper inside us, that we can grow this higher consciousness and we can really more embody and apply the wisdom that the guides have been giving us. And I think we're going to need it in 2021, which is a 5-year in numerology, which is all about change. So it's a big time. So I want to toss it to you to go ahead and start us off and share what you wanted to talk about first.
Well, I've always shared with you how grateful I am for the words of the guides to help us along in journeys that can cause, chaos and confusion. I'm just eternally grateful. And I have said that out loud many times. This particular transmission is loaded. Well, they all are loaded with information and guideposts and hope. I mean, we couldn't cover it all in one session. So I've broken it down into three sections, and the one is that I heard from you years ago is that we are all being summoned back to the light by the divine creator. So that's what's going on right now. We are being summoned to the light. So anything that is not in harmony with that divine love and light is coming up for us to look at, transform, and integrate. So that's one thing I want to talk about. And the other one is we are in the bridge times right now, leaving one area of consciousness, one level of consciousness. We call it the 3D or the 3D matrix or whatever, and living in oneness at the same time. So there's this dance between, freaking out in the 3D and living in peace and love and unity consciousness in the 5D. The last one is that the heart is the bridge. Your heart sight and heart vision that are divinely wired in our divinity codes is all this heart vision, heart sight to see through God's eyes to the oneness. So I think this bridge time that we're in is something that we need to talk about, because I have a lot of spiritual friends that sometimes think they're doing something wrong or not enough, or they think we're not going to make it, with the light. And so the first one I want to mention is, I'll go back to the first one. We are all being summoned by the light. And you taught me that a long time ago, Marie, that the light is on, the light is shining the truth in your life, in your family, in your communities, in your country, in the world. That anything that's not in harmony with that is raising up inside of you and around you so that you can deal with it. And in times past, we didn't deal with it because, well, it's hard.
It is hard.
And you told me that the guide said there's no escaping the light now.
No one gets a free pass in this, what we call the ascension process or this evolution process. There is a great merging and converging back into oneness and wholeness again after we've all been personally and collectively so separated, so fragmented. Now imagine taking, this is always the image that came to me. Imagine having a ball of yarn. And imagine taking your magical scissors, and creating a dimensional reality where we cut that into all different strips of yarn. And how many hundreds, if not millions and billions of threads of yarn that there exist on the world today. And all of those threads, all of those fragments are coming back. They're converging back into one whole ball of yarn again, into that perfection of unity consciousness. And so it's a journey. It's a journey right now. And it's so beautiful that the guides are spotlighting the bridge times that we're in, because the 3D world is represented by all those strips of yarn, all those fragments. And the 5D new earth that we're moving into is already whole. It's already whole. And the bridge times we're in requires a bridge. And the heart is the 4D that oftentimes doesn't get talked about very much, does it? Right? The 4D is the bridge for the bridge times.
And that we're being led. So, I used to think, I'm not doing enough. What should I be doing? But how deep is your trust is something that we've shared before. That when I let go and trust that whatever I'm feeling, experiencing is the journey. And all I have to do is trust that whatever comes up for me is part of my journey, that I am the bridge. I am my bridge from the lower consciousness into the higher consciousness.
Well, that guidance that you got years ago, which was for somebody who's hearing this podcast for the first time, Renee did get guidance earlier in her life. A question came through that she could feel was nudging her and asking her, how deep is your trust? How deep is your trust, Renee? And then you got to experience some more things that were teaching you about trust. And now we're still navigating these two worlds, and we're still in the bridge times, and we're recognizing that we're the bridge. And that, to me, that cue that you got from your higher self, how deep is your trust? That's an invitation to fall back into your heart center.
And not push the river.
It centers you.
Right. And not push the river. Because in the ego mindset, you feel like you have to keep manipulating the energies and people around you so that you can make the creation the way you want.
Yeah, you have to push creation into form instead of surrendering and allowing creation to manifest, because that's what it naturally does.
Yeah, and it's learning. It's about learning the power of your heart. And your heart is, wow. In this transition that talks about the heart is the bridge, and it's your heart that knows when to let go.
It does say that, right?
So
Can you read that part?
It is your heart that knows when to surrender the old world and the raging duality, and to embrace the faith that leads you into the midst of the mystical changes in store for you and humanity and all sentient life in the new earth and this new 5D lived experience of unity consciousness once more. So that's what's happening to us. And so I put my trust there most of the time and just open up and say, lead me and guide me, because I don't know, because it's the unknown, because we're leaving the stuff we know, the known, and we're stepping into the new life, which is like way better.
It's way better. We're accessing more of the quantum field of energy, the field of oneness. And we have to go back sometimes and review what this separation cycle has been. When we talk about the 3D matrix, it's an entire paradigm of lived experience and vibrational experiences. But it is an illusion that when we thought that we separated from source, which we can never really be separated from source or the light or God, whatever language people use, we can never truly be separated. But in a realm of 3D and in that paradigm, our sight, our vision shrinks way down. And we live in this linear world in a 3D matrix where A plus B plus C equals D, right? 1 plus 2 equals 3. And we feel that's part of the pushing creation along, because you feel like, well, I have to have A, but I got to be setting up B, and I've got to be thinking about C, and I've got to work really hard to get to D. And on a linear timeline, you're always pushing the dots on the timeline to access your goals, right? Even if you're not consciously doing this, this is how we live. We're like pushing boulders up the hill a lot of the time in this realm.
River. And
Pushing
so
the
I
river.
think the awareness of that we are in the bridge times, and that it's um, yes, we trust that the light is leading us, but we do have a task, we do have a job. Trusting is one, but the holding the awareness of what's going on, that it is unique times, the bridge. And remember, gosh, this year and maybe even last year, the guides were talking about being on the rope bridge,
Yes.
the bridge that,
Yes.
you know, it's kind of like swaying, and it's like it's unknown, and you know, you can't look back and you can't really see forward. But we're I think that we have a lot more knowledge of what's known now in 5D, because a lot of us are living in that unity consciousness. I see it every day. There's that caring and helpfulness, and people seeing each other and people helping each other. And so I think it's more alive and more present than people realize. And in our groups, you know, we meet on the Zoom before we record anything, and it's just a beautiful reaction of total acceptance and love and support and encouragement and helping. And that's what that unity consciousness is. And so it's present here. And I think that's what they were saying, that that we're living in duality and oneness or singularity at the same time. And like you have said, we've have our feet in 3D, but we're operating from 5D.
Right.
And so you know, it is a dance, and your awareness of who you are, where you are, and how to handle things that come towards you in the area of things in your job or things in the news, things in relationships,
right?
that you need to go to that awareness in your heart. Your heart, I learned that a long time ago. Your heart has its own consciousness, its own wisdom. And when you connect, that's where you rest. That's where you can rest and trust.
There's
That's where
heaven,
God.
what we conceive of as heaven in many religions and faiths. It lives in our heart centers. That's the portal to heaven. That is the 0 point portal that's leading and guiding us there. And we have access to the quantum field in the fifth dimensional consciousness that is not linear. That's where everything that you want, need, desire to feel and experience and live out and embody, it's just a frequency away. So when you can relax into the quantum field and you can trust, how deep is your trust? And you can trust your heart vision, your heart consciousness, the infinite intelligence of the universe as a divine child of the cosmos, of a living, manifested physical creation. Our heart is the bridge between those two worlds. And so some people might say that's just impossible. And yet we can look at and just say, what's the first thing to form when we're newly conceived? The heart. It's the heart that starts pumping, and the cells in our heart centers are already percolating and sparkling with our consciousness when we're barely a few days, few weeks old, really. From the very beginning, it's the vibrational fibers, the divinity codes are in that heart center, creating all the rest of us. There's no accident in that. And the heart is critical for life. It's pumping the life force in our physical bodies. But
Every second.
that's just a metaphor for that we're also pumping the quantum frequencies and the quantum consciousness to every cell in our body all the time.
And that's what blows me away, that we were wired with our divinity codes in us, so that when we could turn. So I'm glad you mentioned the linearity of 3D and the quantum, because you're steeped in linearity, because A has to happen first, and then B, and then C. That it's almost like when you get there to the quantum consciousness, you're like, what, I should be doing something.
Right. It is foreign to us at first, and it feels foreign until we relax into our heart centers. And then we say, no, it's not foreign. It's familiar, right? It's me. But it feels foreign because we still have toes dancing in the third dimensional world. So there's this, we have to reconcile or come into some kind of harmony with the 3D and the 5D, because the 3D is saying, yeah, it doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. You can't just think a thought and manifest things. No, you have to work hard. And what you want is really far away from you, which means there's a lot of time in between what you want and if you'll ever actually get it.
Exactly.
And a lot of
you
people
may not ever get it, because you know what? Blessed humanity.
right?
It's not like people haven't tried. It's not like people haven't set up their affirmations and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. It's like people have really tried. Me, I tried so many times to get things to work a certain way, and feel like a failure that you can't manifest something the way that it should be, or the way you wanted it. And so
And it's confusing when we believe ourselves, many listening to this believe themselves at some level to be a conscious creator. And then it defies our higher knowing when we're these conscious creators that can't create the thing that we desire. And there's a lot of other packets and parcels of energy that's at work that often we're not taking a look at. So when we say, let's go back to the light summoning everything back to itself, it's summoning the light in all things back to itself. And therefore, it's going to show up in our lives the hidden beliefs that we as conscious creators may not have known that were in there, that were conflicting thoughts or old conditionings or old beliefs. Maybe not even from this lifetime. It could have been from 20 lifetimes ago that's still vibrating. You can't do these things, Renee, right? You can't achieve the things that you want. There's some kind of always a block in the way that, and then there's that, how deep is your trust, which we could say, how deep is your faith? We're learning a new level of what faith is, right? And faith isn't just about manifesting things. Faith is about trusting the divine in all things, and the divine lining up what is in our highest good. The light is highest good. The light goes to perfection. Yeah.
As creators, living in this dimension, living in the bridge, doing this transformation with humanity, it's amazing to me that in spite of everything that I've been through in my life, my heart is still seeking that light. In the midst of pain that I might be in, I am still seeking that light. So that to me is the heart leading you and guiding you. Because I can remember thinking, God, it's pretty soon you're aware that like there's nobody like you. I mean, it's one thing to be a little different. It's another thing to, love everything in creation and be the only one that you know that does. And so you kind of go, no, but it's that, because I've had people say to me, why do you even seek? You need to just be happy with what's going on in the now moment. Live in the now. And so, but my heart knew that there was something more. And my heart knows. And I kept going and I kept going and expanding and seeking that expansion and understanding.
And let's clarify that, because I think there's all kinds of truth out there. And from different lenses of perception, seeking truth can look or sound like restlessness. And sometimes seeking truth comes out of a restlessness inside. If you feel the two worlds and people are seeking from that place, that's okay. Sometimes that's your catalyst, the restlessness. But sometimes as we get on this path, or maybe even the beginning of our path, some people are seeking because they are restless, or there is something that's uncomfortable, and they actually feel better in the expansion and discovery, right? And the uncovering of who they really are. And so when I say the word seeking in my life, at first I was seeking to get help and find healing, because I was at a point in my life, like you, I had my own experiences where there's some tragic events happened, and I was in a tremendous amount of stress, unbearable stress. And so you could even use the word desperately seeking at that time, because the pain was so immense. It was too much for my physical container to handle all of that. So yes, of course, it invited me to seek. But I can say, not everybody has that kind of catalyzing experience. And some people just know there's something more. And when we're seeking, a lot of people who look at us from a different lens of perception of like, oh, she's never content, she's never happy, she's always seeking something outside of herself to bring wholeness. I think those who are truly on the spiritual path, who understand this language that we're talking about, I would say it's healing from the inside out, feeling whole inside ourselves again. And I get such joy out of the seeking. To me is expansion. I feel myself expanding in understanding, expanding in embodying more and more light, expanding and embodying more and more compassion. And I'm not saying I've reached full enlightenment and there's no more expansion for me. No, I think it's an infinite level of expansion. Look at God, source creator. That's why there's so many souls incarnated, because source expands through us. We are expanding source right now in this podcast. Right. And anyone listening is expanding source. And there's something of a fullness of experience when you're seeking truth, and you can insert seeking God. You can seek creator, you can seek love, you can seek the light. It's seeking an ever deepening experience of that unification of divinity inside ourselves. And to me, that's not restlessness. It might be for some people, and certainly at the beginning, sometimes people feel that. But often it transforms pretty quickly into, oh my gosh, this feels good.
Well, that exactly explains my journey. Is I didn't feel restless so much as I kept having these nudges saying, it's not supposed to be like this. There's more.
Right.
There's more because I can feel it, and there's more because, why do I love so much? I mean, where did that come from? And I'm not really seeing that outside of me too much, and I think I told you I was around 8 years old when I just like realized, because I had seen some news and I had 8 years worth of life experience. And I remember thinking something is wrong with this world. Something is not right with this world. And so, and I can look back and see that my heart totally led me all the way to where I am now. But we co-created it.
Right.
Because if I wasn't open to it, because I remember hearing years ago, hey, your still small voice of your higher self, God, goddess, is always speaking to you. But you don't always listen. You just kind of pass it off as a silly thought or something. For some reason, I was hypersensitive to the thoughts that came to me. And I would say stuff like, really? You know, I would allow a second thought. I wouldn't just kick it out. I mean, some things like, yeah, you should rob a bank. No, no, thanks.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
the word discernment, right?
right.
Comes into play, right? Yeah.
But for some reason, and then, you know, I am a triple Aquarian, not really sure what that means, but I've had people go, whoa. And so in the clouds, in the cosmos is about the only thing I know what that means. But I was always seeing the big picture and grateful for it, but it kind of a burden at times too. But grateful because my heart has never steered me wrong. My heart is a safe place, you know, and your heart is the bridge that is divinely wired in your divinity codes to see through God's eyes. So I think that this bridge time is you're either seeing through your ego mindset and you're seeing separation. So the bridge is about, where's your focus? Is it on separation and fear and no solutions? Or is it in unity, consciousness, and love, and expansion, and light, and the new earth? And so, and I think that these bridge times are about people like us that really do care about humanity and the world. And truly, it's not as hard as you think to be part of the solution when all you do is connect to your heart and live from there and trust that your heart, which is God's love and light, is leading you and guiding you.
It is a higher dimensional perspective and level of perception that our mental minds, our human selves, our 3D awareness, it can't comprehend that because it's not wired for that.
Right.
So when we entered the separation and we empowered the mental mind to take over because the rest of us was freaking out, and it kind of made our mental minds, our egos, the new God, right? It was like our false God in this realm of like, okay, well, you lead then, right? And the ego has done its very best to do that for us. So it's like we're not shaming our ego. We don't want to be devaluing of the ego. We just have to recognize it was never designed to be God. It was just appointed or elected to be God in the 3D dimension. And we have a personal ego that travels through time with us. And we have a collective ego that travels through time with us.
Right.
And as a collective in the dream of separation, that ego has done a lot of, you know, painful things that hasn't gone so well for the whole, right? For everyone. There have always been people suffering. There have always been people in pain. And that ego justifies that in the survival of the fittest. And when people could grab hold of Darwin's, you know, scientific proof of survival of the fittest and say that's just human evolution. No, that's a little bit of a false telling of our evolution through time. It's really almost, you know, someone grabbed onto that as a justification for leaving others in pain and leaving everybody to be these separated pieces of yarn and sort of like, oh, it's unfortunate they're having that lifetime. I'm nice over here, safe and cozy. And even though I might have my struggles, you know, it's unfortunate that that's happening in the world, but I don't have any power to do anything about that. That's the 3D matrix. That's the 3D ego. That's a collective ego that isn't really the divinity truth, like the divine truth of who we really are. We have the power to heal things in a nanosecond. And when we enter that quantum field together, and we're en route to do that, this is part of what this transmission is talking about, and that the guides have been seeding in all of the transmissions, is that we are literally in these bridge times. And we're having to become more comfortable that there's a part of us now that's emerging inside many of us, at least, that knows the whole ball of yarn, that knows the unified field. We are this one whole. We are these sounds of circles. We're one big sphere together. And then we look, through 3D lenses at the news or, whatever that is expressing 3D consciousness, and we see fragmented vision again, and we can get pulled back into that matrix. Or if somebody is struggling, sometimes people who have really good hearts but are functioning from 3D instructions to the heart, we feel like we have to go save those people. The higher dimensional aspects of us are pure heart vision, that is the portal into heaven. It's understanding that inside anybody that's suffering, whether that's us or someone else, we all have the divinity codes. And a better prayer sometimes is to know that that person or that country or that situation has the divinity codes in it. And you can vision the higher timeline where the ball of yarn is all connected and that everything is perfect and whole. And then there's sometimes nudges of action steps that we can take, whether it's make a donation to something where we really know that they're supporting creating change in the world, right? And we actually take the steps to research those places. Because sometimes, just using donation as an example, a lot of times people feel the pain that's over there, and it seems like it's outside of us. We don't know what to do. We might say a prayer, but we might not even be saying it from an interconnected prayer. It might be a prayer of resonating with the pain. We have to be paying attention to where we're creating from. And then we might just say, well, I can send a donation, but we're called into a greater awareness now of really paying attention. Where do the donations go? What do they do with the donations? So if you're going to make a choice like that to take action on your prayer, you want to be really looking into the quantum field from a higher vision and seeing, do they really put these dollars, this currency of energy, this current that I'm sending to create change, is that really manifesting the light the way I'm intending it? A lot of us, I was a big donor to a lot of different causes over the years, never looked back. I would just feel so much better inside myself that I had found a way to create change. And I just gave the money to something that I thought was creating change. But as we start to bridge these two worlds, seeking truth and opening our heart vision means looking sometimes at some of the organizations that I have previously donated to, and they don't do at all what I thought they were doing. And a lot of times the monies go to their agendas or the CEOs. It's for bonuses or whatever you give sometimes in nonprofits, but it's padding somebody else's pocket, or it's serving agendas that was never my prayer. But I didn't have the awareness to think, if I donate to a cause, that I actually, as a conscious creator, need to make sure that my good energy is manifesting the change that I wanted.
Well, because you would never take a donation if you had a company and not do what you said you were going to do.
Right.
So that's the kind of the naivete of the empath, or the people that live through their hearts. They would even never consider.
And we should say that
what you promised.
Right. And I was just going to say the 3D empath, because there's a higher dimensional empath version of us that's what we're trying to connect with, that we have all of the awareness, and we have this great open portal, this field of energy, this higher consciousness inside us. But we have really open eyes and we understand the two worlds. See, the matrix can have all this deceit and corruption and the pain and suffering on the planet when we are naive, because we can't imagine that people would do things like that, because it's not in our hearts. So we're assuming it's not in somebody else's heart. But
well, you can't relate to it. So, and you would never do that. So you're of course mortified when you hear of something happening like that. But as you were talking, I was thinking about, there might be people that are going, well, yeah, I want to be in that higher timeline. I want to be in that 5D consciousness that live in your heart. And so you know, the way it happened for me is that I learned about what the ego mindset was, and learned that if a new thought came in and it would race around in your ego mindset, if it didn't find a place to file it, it would kick it out and not give it a second thought. And so I literally built my divine mindset by starting to focus on God thoughts, thoughts that are truth instead of thoughts that aren't truth. Like, thoughts that aren't truth is, you'll never amount to anything. You can't ever do anything right. You screw up all the time. You might as well not even try. Those are examples of ego mindset thoughts that are easy to keep running in a program if you buy into it.
Right.
And but conversely, if you start adding divine thoughts, your heart is your bridge, your heart is your wisdom, your heart connects you to the infinite.
You're a powerful creator.
You're a powerful creator. The laws of the universe were made for you to create what you want, be what you want, do what you want, have what you want. And as I started focusing more and more on that, my life changed. And I learned more and more to live in my heart, which when I connected to it was the perfect divine guidance in whatever situation. And even if I was confused or I didn't know the action, the leading of the heart would be, you need to think about this for a few days, or you don't need to act on this in this moment. So I think the bridge for me, and I've had a lot of years of experience, even though I felt like I totally left the connection of my heart in the depth of all the stuff I've been going through. Like, oh man, you totally not lost the connection, but I was so distraught by things that I just, you know, where's my heart?
Because there is a 3D and a 4D and a 5D heart consciousness inside us that exists right now today,
Right.
inside all of us. And we have all the circuitry, the divine wiring for all three of those living realities, right? Those living experiences. And so sometimes we do slip, or we find ourselves, we become awake to the fact that we're in a lower dimensional heart consciousness. And then we have to open, and I just want to bring this to consciousness because I think it's going to come into a lot more podcasts in the new year. This understanding, or this understanding of a new language. Because when we don't have a language is words. But when you have divinity codes in the words, when they're living words, which is what these transmissions are, and you felt that, Renee, but even inside ourselves, we have to, part of the bridge that the heart is trying to show to us, it's also giving us these new higher vibrational words, that you have the third dimensional thought. You feel the feeling of, you've always been a failure. Remember, you've tried these things before and it didn't go so well. You know, it's going to tell you, the ego, the false God inside us in this matrix, is going to tell you how it doesn't work out for you. And it has a lot of language of limits and lack. That is part of the old world language, right? But we're moving into the new world language, or the new earth language. And we have to even have a consciousness that a new language is required. And what has the language inside us? The heart. It's our heart that's like a quantum computer, essentially, inside us. Not to make it too AI, because it's a God consciousness inside us. And we can even say God is a quantum intelligence, right? An infinite intelligence. It's the heart that knows how to see in that much bigger picture. And it's the heart that can translate any language of this world into the new earth language. So we have to be willing, partly on that bridge, the bridge times. We could literally see ourselves on the rope bridge between the worlds. The rope bridge is the 4D, and the 4D we're using as a metaphor as the heart center that's bridging the worlds. But even in the heart, there's a 3D, a third dimensional heart, there's a fourth dimensional heart, there's a fifth dimensional heart, there's probably a 12th dimensional heart, or a 20th dimensional heart that we can't even conceive of yet, because we're still living at this level, and that's okay. We're in an evolutionary cycle.
Well, and and I've said to myself before, why do we even have to go through this? This is ridiculous. And now I can see that we lived in this 3D matrix for so long. You can't just go, okay, and put you over here,
Right.
because
There's a lot of catch up to do. It's like a quantum shift.
oh yeah, there is a lot of stuff you have to understand. You can't just, because I used to say to myself, I'm an infinite divine creator. I blah, 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 blah. But guess what? My ego wasn't buying it. I mean, because I didn't feel like it. I wasn't acting like it. I was trying. That's why I say blessed humanity. I see so many people trying so hard, and they want it, and they know it's the right thing. So that's why you have to trust the heart and God's light and love to lead you in the right steps, stepping over the stepping stones that you need to step over to get little pieces of the puzzle so that you can put that puzzle together yourself. And basically, when we hear the light is summoning you back to itself, it's putting all the little pieces of you back together, because we have been fractured. Yes. We've been fractured. And so I built my own divine mindset using the laws of the universe that I studied.
Right.
I didn't study all
quantum, that are quantum laws that are really expansive.
Like, if you're feeling like crap, then you're most likely in your ego mindset. If you feel anxiety or fear or anything like that, you're in the wrong mindset. Get back to the divine, where you can feed yourself and allow that light to expand in you.
And utilizing the living light in our conscious breathing, the living light in the words that we choose, because the words are living vibrations. So that's the same thing. When you are speaking third dimensional speak all the time, you're speaking the vibrational language of limits and lack and fear. And
in your self-talk also.
Right.
And self-talk is extremely important. Like I've said to myself, you don't have the whole picture right now, but you have enough picture right now to live through your heart. And that's huge. And
yes,
at a girl, because, you need to own who you are in order to move forward. You can't say, I'm not that person, I'll never be that person. When in truth, you are a beautiful, divine human, a divine creator. We're divine and human.
Exactly.
And we go back and forth in that dance.
And if we could be a new earth dancer, if we can be this bridge dancer, if we can allow ourselves to have this experience and not judge the 3D aspects of us and not judge the quantum aspects of us, right? If we can simply allow ourselves to be vessels to a holy purpose, vessels who are carrying a unique soul signature frequency for these times, we're a candle that lights up a collective sun. So we have to understand, but our candle's going through a lot of change. And so is everybody else's candle. And when we can have compassion, sometimes people do want to make that leap, like you said, Renee. Sometimes people are like, yeah, I'm done with 3D. I'm just jumping to 5D. You can try that, but anything that's still in resonance with the 3D lower dimensional realm and experience,
including your body,
might snap you back into the 3D illusion, but the matrix of reality that is the illusion, it may snap you back there until you clear out what that is. And instead of feeling like, oh, I failed, oh, I thought it was more evolved than I did, there's no failure in the God consciousness. There's no failure in a divine creation. There's just cues and clues that are coming our way that say, oh, I must have left a sandbag back there and I need to go back and I need to clear that out. And when we have the tools and we have the language is so much a part of the bridge. And that's what these transmissions are. That's also what these Q&As are, Renee, is just seeding in people's consciousness. Not only do we need the conscious breathing, do we need to connect with spirit and God? Do we need to connect with our heart centers and our talents? But we need to connect with language as a living vibration. And early on in my journey, I tapped into the energy of Sanskrit. In fact, I was woken up from a number of dreams speaking Sanskrit words. And I
Wow.
wasn't getting the message for a few nights because I would get the messages and I would know that I was being downloaded with some information. And you know what you do when you're dreaming? You're like, oh, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't, right? So they
No.
actually woke me up in the middle of the night, gave me some words, and I had to actually go look them up because I didn't know what they were. But I felt like even in my dream state, that's just something that happened to me. They were trying to give me Sanskrit because in Sanskrit, every single sound has deep vibrational meaning. Well, of course, what would a 3D matrix need to do? Oh, let's eliminate that language that gives people vibrational meaning so they can be lost and dazed and confused and forget who they are so we can have all of this 3D theater. Well, I think we're coming back into a time. I don't know if we're going back to Sanskrit, but I do think we can right now think about the language we're speaking. And is it a bridge language? Even if you feel trapped, you could be somebody that says, for my 3D self, we could have a conversation, a multidimensional conversation. What does your 3D self say? Well, my 3D self says that I'm in pain and I'm trapped and it'll never get any better. What does my 4D self say? My heart vision that can see the two worlds. I'm willing to open to a greater emancipation. I'm willing to open to a greater freedom inside myself and in my life where there more possibility presents itself to me. The quantum, the 5D part of you, what is that saying? Oh, it is such a beautiful, beautiful energy and consciousness. I'm blissing out right now. I'm so free. I feel
Yeah.
so sovereign. I'm connecting with the entire cosmos right now. Okay. So we have to be willing to have these multidimensional conversations, and the heart being the bridge is really important too, as we see it in this conversation. I didn't know we were going to be talking so much about language, but it's another critical soul skill. Because if you can recognize if you're talking 3D to yourself in your self talk, you don't have to shame yourself. You have a 3D aspect. Of course, it's going to talk about what's so hard because it is hard to your 3D perspective. Living here can be very hard. And then you say, okay, thanks for that perspective. I'm going to check in with my heart center's perspective right now, right? And actually, I'd really like to hear from my fifth dimensional vision and my fifth dimensional heart. What is that seeing? Where am I really going? The stones in the fog, in the mist. So I really want to read this. This is a perfect time to be reading this critical passage that's in this transmission. People can hear it in the video. They can go back and hear it. Or I recommend they go to Frequency Writer and actually find the text, because this was a really beautiful metaphor for what the bridge is right now. And the bridge, they say here, we wish to give you an image or a metaphor to illustrate some of what we speak of today, although we understand too that you very likely have awareness of this very tension or stress or lived experience of that which we speak. So imagine yourself running away from an entire army of 3D warriors, chased to the edge of a cliff that only offers you a steep fall into the ravine below, and most certainly the end of that lifetime as you knew it. And while you hear the army clamoring behind you, and you pause at the edge of the cliff, these stones in a profound celestial fog and mist appear before you. Now you can't see where they lead, and you can't in any way know who or what is truly offering them to you. But vibrationally, they feel a whole lot better to you than what you are presently experiencing with the angry and crazed army at your back and the deep fall to what you might call death below. So, given the situation, your knowing of the army behind you and the outcome it is driving, and the stones in the fog being offered to you, that have a beautiful, calming, mysterious, and yet celestial energy in them, summoning you as a way of moving forward in your journey to a new adventure and to a new life and to a newness not previously ever imagined. You find yourself choosing a new life on that new stone path, wherever it might lead you. For you are keenly aware that in any life in your old life is no longer available to you. And you consciously step on the first stone and then the second until you disappear into the mist, leaving the army bewildered, unsuccessful, and in deep divine ways neutralized by the hands of God through the celestial unfoldment forevermore. And there's that moment of how deep is your trust.
I remember at the very beginning, it's the divine choice point.
The divine choice point.
That's the divine choice point.
Yes.
Which that you have to make a decision if you're going to walk into that mist or let the raging army behind you have its way with you. And when you make that choice is when you have allowed divine intervention.
Yes.
Because you made the choice and stepped into the unknown, which isn't that 5D?
Exactly. It is, and that's what the mists and the fog are. They're moving you into this quantum reality that our ego mind doesn't understand, because it's looking for where is the next stone, and if we manifest that stone, if we work really hard to get to that stone, where's that going to get us? The fifth dimensional consciousness and even the fourth dimensional heart center that we're talking about right now, it doesn't need to know. It knows that the light is leading us somewhere so much better than what we've been living. The certainty is the struggle and the separation. If we do nothing right now, and in these bridge times, as a collective, if we did nothing and we didn't consciously change anything, we are only guaranteed more struggle and more pain and more suffering and more separation.
And what you just read said that you're standing in front of the fog and there's that one stone step, the mist.
Right?
And all you know is that it feels better than what's behind you. That's all you know, is that it feels better. And you only have a second or a few seconds because the army's right behind you, right?
It's right there.
Right.
We're on the precipice.
And it's a good metaphor because that's exactly what goes on inside of you. It's what went on inside of me. Like I just can't face this raging army anymore. It's not feeding me. It doesn't honor me. It doesn't hear me. It doesn't see me. What am I doing? I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And so you make that step and you disappear in the mist. And you've left linearity behind, you left 3D behind, you left your old ways and habits, but still, I think we're still on the bridge when you step in that mist, because we're still having to let go of things that we served.
Exactly. That we were the servant of, consciously or unconsciously. And again, there are many people who are still asleep and don't know their power as a conscious creator. And they are a servant of the matrix. They are a slave in the matrix, because when you don't know you're a conscious creator, you're serving something, right? And so we're waking up to realize that we are divine beings and vessels to a holy purpose, meant to experience our divine birthright, but also to serve the light. And that's to serve the greater wholeness and oneness that we truly are. That's where the prayer, and it's a powerful prayer, highest good. It's 2 words, but I think it's one of the most powerful prayers that exist in our living universe, is highest good, because it basically means highest good for me, highest good for the collective, highest good for all.
And that's the heart. When you're in your heart, you don't want more for you than you would want for anyone else. Right? You wouldn't wish ill on anyone, even your worst enemy.
Right.
That's what the heart is unity consciousness, is that you know the connection to all creation. You know that you have that love. And so you see through the heart's eyes, God's eyes, and that every human being becomes precious to you, no matter what they're doing to you. Every human being. I told you, an old friend of mine once said, if you could remove the mask from everyone, you would be surprised at how dear they are to you. Well, that just totally expanded my heart, and I just started seeing the divine in everybody. And that's what being in 5D is, and living in that living in the midst of 5D and walking in is still unknown. But I know my heart. I do not doubt my heart for 1 second. I might doubt what's in my future. I might doubt that my next step, or what am I going to do about this or this. I do not doubt my heart and the love it has for all things, and the connection and the joy I get in looking at a simple flower or a little bug making its way around a rock. It's like, what a gift.
Divinity in all things, right?
Yes, what a gift to be able to experience that, because that means that I am ever present in my divinity. It is ever present in me and around me. And yeah, I have times of like despair and all this kind of stuff, but deep breath. And when that's over, I look at the flowers on my counter and I go, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Look at you just sitting there being so sassy and so beautiful. And it's like, it just squeezes my heart and lifts me up. And,
and that's how you're the bridge. That's how you can experience in one moment all of those things at the same time.
That's right.
You can despair, or you can be just totally feel like you unraveled a little bit and you're frustrated, or your fear comes up, whatever it is. And then also you could be simultaneously looking at that flower and looking at how absolutely cute it is in its perfection and blooming and shining its light with no apology. It's just shining bright.
And it's at the same time, it's at the same moment. Remember, we talked about the light showing you the truth, and now you're going, oh my God, and freaking out. And then at the same time, I can feel that light holding me, comforting me, loving me, saying, it's okay. We got this. I got you. I got your back, your front, your sides, everything. And so that's that level of trust. I don't think I would see that in the midst of my pain if I didn't have that level of trust. The light wouldn't be able to show up for me that way.
And that's why we need the language, because when you're having a moment, a lower dimensional moment, which is 3D matrix, right? We've all had them, and some people are still having them. We just need to recognize, oh, I'm in a 3D moment. I'm in a 3D vibration in this experience right now. I'm experiencing a 3D vibration. Having the language to acknowledge that to yourself while you're sweating, angering, being frustrated, whatever is going on, the drama that's going on inside you, just to recognize that it's not really truly you. It's the vibrational experience you're having, and it's a 3D vibrational experience. Then you can say, okay, so I recognize that I'm having this, whatever's being triggered. Then you can, in the same moment, be saying, but I'm willing to reach for a better feeling thought. I'm willing. You might be having that experience. And as I'm looking at you, Renee, I see your beautiful Christmas tree shining behind you. In a moment like that, you could say, I need a happy thought, need a better vibrational feeling. Oh, look at that beautiful Christmas tree. So you're frustrated, but you're also allowing yourself to enjoy the frequency of the Christmas tree. We're not skilled enough to be able to hold those two vibrations at the same time, right? For very long. So it is a quick nanosecond from, oh my gosh, I'm totally triggered in my fear or anger or whatever it is. Look at that beautiful Christmas tree. I'm going to drink in the light of that and give myself a still point. That's the heart. The heart has the ability to give us a still point and find a kind of neutrality where we just feel better. We feel better. Everything's okay in that place right there. Our heart is doing that. Our ego minds can't do it, but our heart can. If we have the language of these vibrational choice points, we can make decisions in that moment to look for something or to think of something. When I was going through my greatest challenges, I didn't even have time to look around for something in my environment to appreciate or to feel better about. I had to have a list that I'd written out. So when I went to that place inside myself, I could just mentally go to my list of 5 or 10 things and pick one. Because just by its vibration, whether it's the ocean and, smelling a sea breeze and seeing the seagulls, like that just made me feel expansive when I was feeling so trapped. So that's part of what our heart's language, this new language of the new earth, this vibrational language. It's like the new Sanskrit of whatever this is. It's this new living language that we're saying, I just did that. I just had one of my worst feelings, one of my most painful emotions and vibrations. And I simply transmuted it in the moment with an already prepared, better feeling vibrational thought or feeling or memory, right? And once you bridge to that fourth dimensional space and you have that language and that vibration, and you're breathing that higher dimensional consciousness, it's not hard if you choose to say, I'm going to go all the way. Now I'm going to shift gears all the way to quantum, and I'm going to go to my fifth dimensional space. And I'm going to think about something that truly just one of my friends that I love, or a connection with a soul sister or soul being that I love, whatever that flower you're talking about, something quantum where you're experiencing the perfection that everything is vibrationally. And it's something we're learning how to do. I can talk about this with you today because I practiced it for nearly 20 years, right? The reason I know how to do this and I can roll. So I'm not saying that I don't get triggered. I still get triggered. Certain
Right.
things can still trigger me because I still have the wiring for a 3D matrix inside me. It's there. And then when it happens, I just quickly move through it and I make my divine choice points consciously as a conscious creator.
Because you are a conscious creator and you have the tools that you can access. And that's what a conscious creator does. And I had to go through the period of, well, I failed in that moment. No, I didn't. I took that moment and I allowed my emotions or whatever. But then because I'm a conscious creator, I said, I want to back out of that and go back into the heart where the light lives. And I didn't realize it, but that's where the 5D is, where the heart is. And so I think it's important that people know that this is a bridge time. It is confusing, and it can be painful, and it can be, having unknown in it. And if you just trust the heart in you, trust the light in you, because you cannot escape the light and the heart leading you, because it is written in creation. Your heart vision is what is divinely wired in your divinity codes. Divinely wired, that means, you can't like ask for it, it's already there. Wired in your divinity codes to see through God's eyes the unity unfolding in the duality. So we are in this journey, but don't worry, we know the end. We know we're going to get there. Yeah, it might be uncomfortable, but dance with it.
Yes.
Dance with it and embrace it and trust it. Trust God, trust the universe, trust the process, and have faith in yourself too. I used to, I didn't always have faith in myself or believe in myself, because I just kept seeing that I was screwing up and not doing enough of this or doing enough of that. And so now I am seeing who I am. I am that divine conscious creator that is being led by the light, because I am asking. Ask and you receive. Seek and you will find. I am getting the answers. I am getting stuff every day, every minute, that's leading me and guiding me in my journey. And because I know how to live in the heart, that when I'm not in my home and I'm out in public or whatever, I can connect. I can connect with other people with my heart and embrace their humanity and their divinity, and be that light that I want so badly to cover the whole entire planet.
Exactly. Well, and I want to add, it's something that I wanted to say when we were talking about, when I was reading that story of the cliff and the army and the precipice and the stones, the celestial stones in the fog, that it's really important in that scenario. The guides don't clarify it here, but I would add a clarifier, is that remember, that's you on the precipice. This whole thing is speaking to you, right? To our listeners listening to our conversation. It's speaking to us at the individual level within the collective. And there's something important that I think is essential for the bridge times, is that when we're talking about seeing the divinity in everyone and everything from that higher dimensional place, right? We're already in that unified field of consciousness. There are many people who are not in that place. They are struggling, they are in pain, and they can kind of, reach out to pull us into the 3D world where they're suffering, right? And I think there's this metaphor, we may have mentioned it before, but there's something about in the metaphor that they gave us, when you're on the precipice, there are the celestial stones in the fog. You're not leaping onto the stones and bringing the army with you.
Right.
It's your leap to make. It's your divine choice point to make. And I would say there's a higher oxygen in that celestial
wow.
mist. Breathing in that higher oxygen, that higher consciousness, that's how you're going to find your new grounding. You're going to find your new elevated consciousness, but you're also going to ground in a new cosmic coordinate. When we're in the bridge times, there's still a time and a place for good discernment, and also boundaries in whatever ways we use our discernment to implement our higher guidance. And so allowing ourselves ask, believe, receive, and summoning in those celestial stones in the fog and calling in the higher dimensional consciousness that we're all rising into at our own pace. But it doesn't mean you tell your mom and your daughter and your son and your dog and everybody in your neighborhood, climb on board, okay? I'm going to leap over here for all of us, right? It's that we all have to make the leap as a sovereign soul to that new life, to that new adventure, to that new earth experience. And I think that can get tricky. And I know that some people would say, well, if we're loving all of humanity, we have to love the shadow and the light. And when we're still in these bridge times, it's really important that we're nurturing our vibration, and that we're nurturing our vibration, and that we're prioritizing our vibration, because when we are in the higher timeline, we have even more compassion. We have even more awareness. We see the unity in all things, even in the disunity, even in the duality. If we're trying to find that higher consciousness and join people in a lot of their pain, however that drama might present itself in a 3D way, we have to have the awareness that it's you that has to breathe in the divine oxygen in that moment. And sometimes you have to let somebody have their pain, trusting that that pain is serving them. It's informing them in some way. And you're not joining them in that pain in the way, in a tense experience where you're taking it on too and saying, oh yeah, for us to get through this, we have to both stay in the pain. That's not transmuting it, it's perpetuating it. And so there's a lot in this journey. There's no one podcast, there's no one transmission, there's no one piece of energy that the guides can give us that say, here, this is the 2-word code for everything. The only the only 2-word code that I really know is highest good. It's a prayer. It's even if you're talking to somebody who's agitated or upset or distressed or just triggered or shocked or whatever it might be, if you go into the celestial mist and you breathe the celestial oxygen and the consciousness of the 5th dimensional reality that is the truth of who we really are and higher, you can see that person in pain, and you can also see their divinity codes in there. And you might not even say any words, but you can be connected and you can send love to that higher self inside them. Their divinity.
Honor their process. And, I wanted to say that when I say that the light is summoning us all back to itself, that the goal is our own sovereignty. And we didn't really touch on that word, but you just said it a second ago. And so being sovereign means understanding that you're responsible for every word, every action, every deed, every thought, everything about yourself, but you're not responsible for anyone else.
No.
And as when two people come together who are sovereign beings, they know that they're creating and co-creating.
Right.
And so there, it's a whole different energy than the 3D human that doesn't know it's also divine.
When you're playing with other people in the 5D consciousness, which is a lot of our round tables, right? When we're playing at that higher dimensional playground and co-creating there, everybody's recognizing in that now moment the sovereignty of every conscious creator present. Even if somebody who is sovereign and who is higher dimensional is having a tough day, we all know with them, and they know that that tough moment is part of their divinity, and we all move right through it, and it's still high vibrational.
Well, and I don't expect somebody in the sovereign circle to rescue me or take my pain away, or I just feel the presence, which echoes my presence.
It's an echo.
And it's an acknowledgement of, you know, what I happen to be going through or what they're going through, and all we do is send that high love and speak our truth about it, which is absolutely beautiful, you know, when we do that. And so
It's
my prayer,
it's a unified field that we create like that. And that's what everybody has the opportunity to rise into, but everyone will face their own precipice. Everyone themselves has to choose that celestial stone in the celestial mist. And everybody gets there. Some people need the army to get really, really close. You know, I prefer them to be a few miles away, right? But some
right,
people are like, oh my gosh, I feel them breathing on my neck now. They're really close. And they're going to have to choose the stones in that moment. And everybody is choosing how they want to make that leap. Everyone is.
right.
But sometimes in the 3D perception, when people are feeling trapped there, they don't know about their fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional heart centers. They don't know about this higher consciousness, or they do, but they're still living vibrationally in 3D with the concept.
It's hard work, Marie.
Hard work.
It is hard work. And that's why a lot of people, I've even heard people say, yeah, I know I should, you know, I should get into that, but it's too hard. I don't have the time. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go through that pain and all that kind of stuff. Well, now you're being forced to, because the light is leading you to that point.
The astrologies and the Earth Mother herself is requiring it. The Earth Mother's requirement is now, it's been now for a while, that we have to become frequency specific to this new Earth. We have to be frequency specific to what she's vibrating. It's bigger than us. This is so much bigger than us.
Even right? The Bible says in the last days, the choices will be made known. I would like to say that the divine choice point is coming to you if it hasn't. There's no reason to fear it, because when you make that choice, right, you are inviting divine intervention. Do you know what that is? I'm sure I don't know the whole thing of what divine intervention is, but I accept, because divine is God and all that is, and infinite wisdom, infinite knowledge, and that you will be carried and led when you make that decision. And trust that the pain or confusion, you know, it won't last long. Plus, you will be surrounded by people who love and support you, people that you can listen to, like Marie, and other people. There's so many beautiful souls sharing their truth and helping people through these difficult times. And I'm sure that you have friends in your own life that love and support you with unconditional love, and they love you no matter what. And maybe they don't have your answers, but they have your back, and they can love and comfort you and say, yeah, wow, dude, yeah, okay, here, let me put my arms around you. And so I want to encourage everybody to, when that divine choice point comes to you, you know, I can't describe it for you. I went through it myself and didn't even know what it was. But know that we are in these incredible times. We are leaving behind one way of life, one way of seeing the world. You know, a dimension of consciousness that is what we're living in now on our planet. We're leaving that behind and entering into the new age. December 21st was the official day of the age of Aquarius, the Piscean age, and the patriarchal age and society. It officially came to an end. The divine feminine is rising, and love is abundant on the planet. And so my prayer for everyone in this new year coming is that you allow the divine to work in your life so that you can fully embody your beautiful divine sovereignty that is unique to you. You have gifts, your personality, your wisdom, everything. You have gifts to offer this human race. And so my prayer for you is that, that the love, the divine love is blanketing the planet. I mean, it's a fact. And so my heart says Happy New Year to everybody. And it's a new, like Marie said at the beginning, it's a new number. All the numbers are changing tomorrow in a few hours, and they already have in Australia.
Right.
So, and know that, I don't know you, but I do, because you're family. And any person that has ever touched my life or that I've ever met, you have to know that I have prayed for you nonstop, the highest prayers for you and your family, because that's how I roll. And even if it was a brief meeting on an airplane, all of you on the planet have been in my heart and my prayers, and it won't stop. So Happy New Year.
I don't think I could say anything better, Renee. That was just absolutely beautiful. I would just add 2 words: highest good. Highest good for you and your family, highest good for the entire human collective, and highest good for the sentient collective on this planet. Entering 2021, these new frequencies of transformation and change, and learning how and expanding into how to more fully embody the living light that we truly are. And maybe that's the only other thing I'd say, is that the light to me is a noun. It's living light embodied in vibrational form that's God consciousness in us. And love is its action. Love is the verb, right? So love is God in action, and the light is God's omnipresence in everyone and everything, right? So when you have love and light synergistically working together, and we as a collective consciousness, more and more of us are celebrating that and saying, yes, 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 I'm ready for that new dream. I'm ready for that new quantum dimensional reality. That is what is manifesting on our world. And when the earth says, I need you to become frequency specific to this higher timeline, this higher dimensional consciousness, and embody that with me, that's what this means, is embodying the living light and the living love of God energy in us. And there are steps and stones in the fog, and times we're going to have to step into this celestial mist and not know how it's going to go. But when we step in with faith and trust, and we say highest good, and we let go to that in our multidimensional heart center, and we vibrationally practice that, highest good is what is going to manifest. And it isn't always sometimes what you wanted to manifest, but highest good is highest good. And it always ends up feeling better in the end once we understand more. God knows more about all of us than we know about ourselves. And the God energy is connected to all timelines. So it knows what needs to manifest now in this new timeline for future timelines, for the allness of time. That's a big highest good prayer. But when you can, in the beginning, I just said the words and I couldn't really feel them. But when I started to see it show up in my life, and especially when something didn't manifest that I wanted to manifest, and I was disappointed, but I said highest good anyway. And then later, could have been 4 years later, I was like, oh my gosh, that's why that didn't manifest then. That's why it was highest good. When you have enough experiences of that, highest good is a profound, individual personal prayer, and it's a profound planetary prayer. And I think anybody that can engage that highest good planetary prayer and consciousness, we are showering ourselves in the living light codes that we really are.
And I think when you say highest good, you invite divine intervention.
Divine intervention.
Yes.
Thank you, Renee, for joining me today. I so love our Q&As, and we will continue in the new year.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our listeners. And find us at Whole Soul Mastery on YouTube, at Color the Magic on YouTube, and in many other platforms. We're on Rumble now, we're on minds.com. And if you are on any of those other platforms, search Whole Soul Mastery, because that's the channel that I've set up there. And we also at wholesoulschoolandfoundation.org, which is the nonprofit I'm a co-founder of, we are going to be talking about the 12 universal laws in 2021, teaching and discussing and reviewing and telling stories about each one every month. Okay, so I invite you to join us there as well. And you can find us on YouTube or our website, Whole Soul School and Foundation, to enjoy that if you desire that support and that deepening of understanding. And we send you happy New Year blessings. And we will see you in the new light of the new earth, of the new age of Aquarius in 2021. Blessings, everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste.